of Power BI today. So basically, what's the architecture of Power BI is like how the architecture and how the components are processed and how Power BI works. Basically, the architecture of Power BI is wherein you connect. So you connect with some particular apps or maybe some data sources or databases and all of that. Then you have a Power BI desktop where you work, where you create your reports, you generate your reports, you create the visualization and all of that. Then you have an access to it where you work with the accesses and you work with your regards of accesses and all of that details and everything. And here you have the Power BI services. Basically, your Power BI services goes on by your organization data. So through a gateway, I told you last time that there is a Power BI gateway, which is nothing but a secure platform wherein from where your organization data can be accessed or any of the secure network data can be accessed. So that's basically the architecture of Power BI that goes on and how it is built. Now, there are some building blocks of Power BI that are there, which is the first is visualization. So you can create visualizations in Power BI. You can have the dashboards that are available in Power BI. You can create reports. You can insert with the data sets. You can have tiles. You can have Power BI building blocks that are available. So let's see some of the examples wherein we can see how we can create some reports or any of that things. So let's see some of them. So let's say this is one of my dashboard wherein I am going to add some cards. Now there are some features wherein you can add some cards in the Power BI. Okay. So cards are nothing but some basic information of the data set that you provide is something related to the cards. So how can you create a normal card in Power BI? So as I showed to you that we loaded our data in Power BI. So let's say I loaded this data and based on that data, if I'm working on anything or let's say I'll just quickly delete this from the module. Okay. Okay. Perfect. So it's taking some time to get the data deleted. So we can have some bit of a time for that reason. So let's suppose I want to have I want to create a cards. Okay. So how can I create it? If you go to this visualization, okay, I can go to this visualization. I click on this. So there will be this visualization created. Now I can check on any column, whatever column I want to. Let's say I want to show the profit or maybe the sales amount. So I would just bring the sales amount over here and it will show me the sales amount as an information of the card. So cards is nothing but a small information about the details of your orders and orders quantity and everything, like a small detail information about the data set. So it's giving me a sum of cards. Now, if you want to like basically format it or do any changes in the formatting or anything on any of these fronts. So you can click on this option of visuals and you can go to the general and you can do all the options and effects and everything. So basically, if you go to the properties option, you expand it, you have a setting of height and all that you can do. Then you can have a title, then maybe the effects, like if you want to have a background color. So let's say I want to apply a background color. So I basically applied that. And if I want to be a bit transparent, I want that, okay, it should be a bit transparent. So I can do that. Then if I want to have a visual border, I can connect to those visual borders and basically I can set up the visual borders as well. So let's say I make it as gray itself and like I can say a feature of how much I want the round to be. Then these are some of the background effects that you can do with the visual borders, with the shadows. And if you want to create a shadow or something, you can do that. If you want to have anything on the tooltip, you can show that whatever you want to have on the tooltip, or if you close that, it's closed. Then basically for your in the tooltip option only, you get an option of text where you can set up the font of your text. Let's say I just make it as Arial, and the size should be like 10, and the label color should be black, and the value color should also be black, and the label, it should be bold. Now, if I want the color of the background, I can see the color of the background should be this. There should be transparencies and all that. So these are some of the formatting things that I did. Like you can also do these formattings. In fact, you can change this also if you want. If you don't want to say that it should be sum of sales, so you can basically change that, like whatever the value you are seeing, like a categorical label you have over here, you can off this. So you won't be able to see that. And instead of having a categorical value, you can just have a title, create it, wherein you can write your own title. Like you can have sales numbers like this can be written. Or maybe sales amount. And you can basically have this as bold, align to center, maybe a bit of a size, and you can make it. In fact, you can make these like as small as you want, like this way, to be compact so that you can arrange them. So these are called as your cards in your Power BI. Similarly, we have some cards which are related to the Q&A part as well. Q&A is question and answers. So basically, we have some cards which are related to our Q&As. We can create some cards on Q&A. So if you see this option, that's for the Q&A. So we can have some Q&A cards available. So Q&A are basic the question and answers. So in that question and answers, you can drill through. So you can ask any question about the data. So for example, like order quantity count, like this way. See, you get the order quantity count like this. Similarly, if I want to have the order month, I can, or maybe the most recent orders. So these are the most recent orders that you have over here. So basically Q&A is nothing but it gives you an information about your data set, about what's there in your data, how the data looks, and everything about that. So basically these are all the things that comes up about the data set whenever you are working for any data or any information. Or maybe you can have some questions of like highest sales by order date. So see, you can see highest sales by order date. So that's how basically you can have all the results, you can have all the Q&As and everything as a setup. So Q&As is nothing but the information about your data, which you can type, and accordingly you can get the data out of it. So that is about your cards that we create in Power BI. Okay. Now, there are something which is called as adding slicers in Power BI. So what are basically slicers? Slicers are nothing but they are the basic information wherein you can have some, for example, you can filter out your data on the basis of that. Like the way if I have this ad, I want to filter out the data. So for 2018, 2021, I can have the numbers or the data available. So that is called as your, basically that what we call as a slicer for that case. So let's say if I want to add a new slicer in this case, let me make this a bit small, and let's bring one of a chart over here. And let's say I'll create a chart on the order date month. For the product price. Sure. And let's say I'll also want to show the profit. So here it shows me two lines about the profit and also about the product price. So this one is product price. So let's format it. Let's have the color of the y-axis as this. And this one should have so let it remain as black only. We'll color we'll change the color of the lines basically. Okay. If you want to show the legends, you can show it in the top center. So they're at the center, or maybe top left, like this. That can have like this markers. I need to change it. Then if you want to have a title on it, so you can write products. Okay, I don't want the title on this one, so let it be. And then if you want to have a grid lines, if you can, otherwise you can just remove them. So I don't want to see the grid lines, so I'm not showing that. If you're on the data labels, it will look like this. Then you have some options wherein data labels. Okay. Okay. So then you can come to the properties. You can have some title and you can change the title. Product price versus profit. That can be bold and centered. Then if you want to have some effects, you can go to the background color and apply some background colors over here. This, then visual borders. This, you can draw whatever. Have some padding, you can do the padding. Then the effects, you can if you want to have a tooltip, you can give it. Otherwise, you can just stop that tooltip. So I want to get that. I'll give it. I don't want any header icon, so I'm not giving that. I want the background color to be gray. So there are some tooltip options that you have. If you want to alt some text, you can do that. For the visuals, basically, the color should be should change. But it's not changing for basically, I don't want to change for the visuals. So for the visuals, I want to basically change the colors of these lines. So if I want to do that, you can go to lines and basically you can say if you want a solid line or something, here you get those colors. From here, maybe I would put this as a red and this would be somewhat like this. Yeah, so that's how probably I changed the color to this. And this is how your let's say a graph looks like. Now, when I am working on this graph, so right now I have these months and all. So now I'm going to bring a slicer over here. So this is the option of a slicer. I bring a small slicer which will act as a filter for you, for this basic data set. And I'll basically put the month over here. You have different months of data. Now, in the slices also, you can have the settings. Like you can have a drop down option, which can be like a filter for you. Then you can have multi-select. You can have the option of select all. So you can do that. Then you can in fact change the slicer header as month filter. You can make it bold. Yeah. So if I want the border of this, I can do that. I'm not expecting for the borders of this. So let's leave that. Yeah, I can make a border of, sorry. So I can check for the values. I can change the formatting to Arial probably like this. And if the border I want, if you want anything like this borders, you can show or else you can leave it. Then if you want to have a background color, you can have a background color as well. And instead of having this slicer header, if I want a general title to be shown, which I can set like a month filter. It can be bold, it can be in the center, something of that sort. And then I can have a effect. I can have some visual borders as well set up for this. So I look like this. And this is a kind of slicer that I have created properly. Okay. Now let's suppose if I want to keep the slicer, or maybe let's make the like make this with a border. Okay, let's have the Uh, where's it? Yeah, visual border. Let's make it as a bit grayer. Okay, sure. Yeah. So kind of like this. Now, let's say I want to filter this up. I want to filter this in a way that it's act like a filter for this complete data, like this month. Or maybe I'll keep it as a slicer over here and it acts as a filter. So how would I going to do that? How would I do that is I'll just select this and I'll just select like March. So see, for the month of March, I'll have this. For month of April, I can see like this. So if you select all, you can have all of them. And if you select just for February and then for March and then April, so see, you can see some lights for 3 months. Now let's suppose if I would have not selected a month filter, rather than I would have selected an year filter. Like rather than using the value of month, I would have selected year. And I would remove the month. I would just take the year from here. So let's say according to 2018, the data changed. Now let's suppose I click for 2018 and 2019 to see. This is how the data works and this is how the data shows. So this is a way where your filter works in a exclusive manner. Now here, if you say filter or visual, let's say this, I would say this should only be applied to this one. Now, if I go to this, which is also changing, I would say only this one should be applied to this. So this is how your filter changes. Then this is called as focus mode. So if you focus on it, you will able to see that what's the filter and what you have created. Basically, it's focusing on your data set, like whatever the thing you have created or basically the chart, it will majorly focus on that chart itself. So that's what is called as focus mode. Then you have more options over here, which says like spotlight, the sort axis. You can sort from like descending to ascending or maybe any of that sort. Then you can show as a table. So then you can just make this data in a form of a table and can show it. Like if you want to show this, I can say show as a table. So respective of the chart, it will give you the table view as well. So you can see like that way as well. Then if you want to have a spotlight, the spotlight means only the basic chart on which you have actually focused, that will be in your spotlight. Spotlight means the basic chart for which you have clicked on becomes a spotlight for you and the others will get hidden up. So that's called as a spotlight. Similarly, you want to sort texts, you want to remove anything, you want to export the data out of it. So you can do all that stuff. You can export the data also from there. Product versus profit. If you want to export this data set, you can export it out from here. So these are all the options are available when you are adding a slicer or maybe you are creating charts in the tab in your Power BI and how you are adding these. So these are some of the things that we create in Power BI. Then we have an option of sorting. So I told you that we can have a sort, like we can sort them based on months and all. So if you see over here option, you can sort based on the month like this way. Like on the basis of the month, I sorted it from descending to ascending like this way. Or you can sort it up based on the sum of sales. Then it will show that from June the sum of sales were low and it hiked up in the month of May. Like this way, it can sort the data up. Then there is something which is called as interactions. Interactions are basically based on the selections of the data set or the data you teach for. For example, based on this, if my data changes. So, what is basically interaction? Like the way we can see over here, or let's say I select them, select all. So, if you see, like I select for this one, probably I select this one. So, see, the data changes, kind of data changes over here. So, this is called as interaction. That whenever I select for any month, see, whenever I select for 2020, it just changes the data. So this is called as interaction, that both the datas have an interaction with one another, or both the charts have some interaction. So as soon as I click on any of them, it changes the data for other one as well. So as soon as I check on this one, or probably I check on this one, see, data gets changed. See, there is some frequency of change over there. So that's how it changed. Or in fact, in that case, if I would have a change on the filter also, let's say for 2021, to see, the change really happens for this chart also and this chart also. So that is what is called as your interaction in your Power BI. So this is how we interact with Power BI, and we work with Power BI in all these cases and all these terms. So these are how interactions and all these things happens, and this all works. Okay. So that's one thing on the Power BI front. Then let's move back. So that's what we have a building blocks in Power BI. Now see Power BI charts. So I told you that we have different charts like I showed you. Like we can create different charts in Power BI. So if let's say I created one line chart, I created one bar chart, or maybe let's suppose I want to create another chart wherein I want to, let's say, create a funnel chart over here. So basically on the categories. So if I would talk about the category, so that can be my, like, whatever the categories I want to pick for. Let's say I want to pick for product SEQs, and what the value I want to show here is profit margin. So it's a type of a funnel chart that's going to be shown over to you, that okay, based on the profit margin or something, a funnel chart is created. Or maybe if not the product SEQ, like if I remove the product SEQ from here, so maybe it will show me just the sum of the margin. And if let's suppose from here I probably take the column of maybe order ID, then also in that case that will change. Now from here I can have some quick measures or show item with no data or something of that sort, like whichever data is not there. There are many values which have no data and anything of that sort. So I can show them up, or maybe just sum of sales, or maybe order quantity, or on the basis of order quantity also you can show your data. So categories can be anything. They can be any part, anything, any quantity, or just a single line of the data set. That's it. Okay. So this is how we basically connect with our funnel chart or any of the charts. So basically the combination of the charts forms a dashboard in Power BI. So this is how we create a chart and we format the visuals like the way I told you. These are all called as Power BI charts. Now there is something which is called as